The Australian outback. Not a place for the faint-hearted, and not a place you ever want to break down. When Jillaroo Jess heads to her next job, it could be thousands of kilometres away, and her ute has to be up to the task. So when Alan and Andrew Gray cross paths with her during a trip to the Pilbara, they insist on making sure it's terrain Tamer strong. Hours in the humidity, lots of parts installed, and Alan exhausted from telling everyone what to do.
You finished yet?
Will Jess's ute be out back ready?
George is such a character. I love that dog so much. You cannot leave the yard without him. He's always bringing you a ball or a stick to throw.
George loves hanging around because he loves learning about new ways to improve the ute. On second thoughts, maybe it's just the balls we keep throwing.
So, Jess, have you heard about ECUs?
I have, but I haven't actually driven one with one in it.
Yeah, I haven't driven that many, but so Andrew, he'll tell you all about it. He's been swatting up and he knows how to fit them, and we're going to put one right there.
So there's a lot of products on the market for power upgrades and that. There's chips and there's various types of ECUs and things that are piggyback systems. This is the only one I'd trust, the Safari R-Max. And it differs from the others quite dramatically in the fact that it has an EGT sensor, so an exhaust gas temperature sensor. It's a good safeguard. So unlike the others, it won't give it full fuel when the engine's cold. It will gently ramp the fueling up as your engine comes up to the operating temperature. What this does is it says, hey, I've reached my threshold, and it starts pulling fuel out of it slowly until it meets its maximum temperature, and it will, so you don't lose all your power completely. It doesn't switch itself off. It just tapers the fueling and the boost off until you are where you want to be at the maximum threshold.
So what's the benefit of putting this in my engine, especially with my long trips?
The biggest benefit you're going to see out of its drivability. Gives you a really good spread of torque all the way through the rev range. On a standard engine with no other modifications, you expect to see about 25% power increase and about 50% torque increase. With the Safari R-Max Snorkel and a bigger exhaust system, you're looking at about 50% power increase and 100% increase in torque. So it's quite dramatic, and it's right across the rev range. It's nice and linear.
The ECU was a little bit different than what I expected, because everyone always just talks about your ute being chipped. So I was just thinking a computer chip. Sounds really stupid, but it's true.
Just lay in there.
The ECU comes with a comprehensive fitting kit and is very user-friendly. The instructions tell you exactly where to fit the bracket depending on what vehicle you're fitting it to. Often with aftermarket products, you have to bastardise things a bit to make it fit. But everything's been very well thought out here, and mounting the ECU to the bracket is a very simple process.
Now what we're going to do is change this, what they call a higher air pickup for probably R-Max Snorkel. So we'll take those off. There's just the two screws, 2 bolts.
Yep.
And we'll discard most of it, but we'll keep some of the bolts.
Sure.
This higher air intake that Uncle Al's referring to is actually what's currently fitted to Jess's ute. It is not sealed and does not increase your fording depth at all. The only thing it literally does is give you a higher air intake. So we're going to replace it with the Safari R-Max Snorkel.
So you've got all the screws out, thank goodness. And I've got the screws, you've got the spanners. That's it. So we're going to discard that. We're going to get a template and cut a bigger hole in here for the bigger capacity snorkel.
I think one of the biggest improvements for Jess's vehicle was probably the snorkel, because for the factory standard Toyota snorkel is not sealed.
Let's see if we can drag that up in the air, and I'll drag this off here and see if we can strain ourselves. I'm not enjoying
It's
myself.
an air filter.
See, that's all dusty. It's an air filter. Can you get a 12mm socket?
We are removing the air filter housing so we can reach the panel, where we're going to cut a larger hole for the snorkel.
How you going over there, kiddo?
EGT sensors in,
Okay.
everything's all plugged in, Jess wired in the accelerator pedal.
Was it fairly straightforward? Or would you need a man of your intelligence?
Even you could do it.
I've got more important things to do.
This R-Max Snorkel allows a much higher airflow. You can't make horsepower without burning fuel, and to burn more fuel, you need more air.
All right, let's drill some holes.
When Al was cutting a hole in my ute for the snorkel, I was a little bit worried, especially when he starts saying, uh-oh.
I hope it wasn't meant to be over here. Okay, we're just going to dummy fit it before we go any further, so we can mark up our A-pillar mounts. Okay, so I've just marked up the position for the bracket, so we can drill the A-pillar.
So in the absence of having any sort of paint, nail polish I find lasts forever on these things. Just put a little bit of nail polish on each one of those.
I thought when you asked me for nail polish, that you wanted to paint your nails with me.
No, not really. No, it's the wrong
Then
colour.
why did you ask for pink?
Yeah, that's pretty dear. Don't use too much of it.
How's that?
Yeah, it comes out of housekeeping money.
In the meantime, I'm going to start installing the mounting studs. Now, when it comes to drilling holes, just remember, measure twice, measure 3 times if you have to, because once you've started, there's no going back. Make sure you use a proper automotive grade silicone. Ready to put the snorkel on? It's a pretty big snorkel by comparison, isn't it? Even the head's dramatically bigger.
I reckon that's pretty good. What do you reckon, Ellen?
Beautiful. Blind man will be glad to see it.
So all we've got to do now is just basically modify the airbox so we can fit this new intake pipe to handle the increased volume of air.
What's happening? I'm half asleep here. How's that for comparison?
Yeah.
Using a generous amount of silicone sealant and one of my favourite toys, a pop rivet gun, we're going to mount the air intake to the modified airbox. Alrighty, so it's time to throw the airbox back in. Make sure you put the clamp back on it before you decide to install it, otherwise you can't get it on later. We're up to the last bit. We're winning. Yeah, while you two have disappeared off gallivanting around, I've been slaving away here.
So what do you reckon, Jess? You're pretty excited to drive the car?
Yeah, it looks a bit different, this snorkel. It's a bit different, we'll see how it feels.
Yeah.
The RMAX ECU offers 3 modes: economy, towing and power. And of course, Jess chose power. I've got a feeling Jess's next drive down south will be a whole lot different this time around.
Bloody hell, I can feel it. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it.
You're gonna love it, I told you you'd love it.
We eventually drove into town to Hunter Mechanical, just because they have a hoist and it makes it so much easier to be able to get underneath of the car.
Today we're going to fit a fortified clutch in the vehicle. While we got it out, we've got this gearbox with the extra high ratio in 5th gear.
Better make yourself useful. Can you go grab a tin of WD-40?
To put under your arms.
Right. So this is the new fortified clutch. Ceramic one side and fibre the other.
We've got to be very careful here, folks, that we don't bend that clutch plate.